Now, it's time for the CyberSecurity News Byte with Jim Guckin.
CyberSecurity News Byte, episode number 59 for June 5th, 2023. New backdoor malware for intelligence gathering, a new ransomware that exhibits some striking similarities to an older one, Discord admins hit with a malicious bookmark, and MOVEit Transfer has a zero-day mass exploit in data theft. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am Jim Guckin, your host with the mostest. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, for our first story, it's actually a very interesting story because it is a new backdoor malware specifically made for kind of gathering intelligence on your network. And this actually comes from the Camaro Dragon group, which honestly sounds kind of a little bit like a high school motorhead gang. But they are definitely a lot more dangerous than that. In fact, they are a Chinese nation-state group. They have other backdoor applications, but this one specifically is for intelligence gathering, meaning they get the application on your computer or on your network, and then it sees what other information it can kind of find all about. So it's interesting, though, because Camaro Dragon kind of overlaps with another threat actor who's out there named, once again, I swear this is a real one, Mustang Panda. Sounds like the rival to that first Motorhead gang that is out there. Once again, Mustang Panda is a known state-sponsored group. They are from China, and they've been active since at least 2012. So, that's a lot in the modern day world. Anyway, this new malware for intelligence is actually called TinyNote. And I'm refusing to make a joke there. The interesting thing is programmed in the Go language. So it's a Go-based malware. It functions as a first stage payload. So what it does is like I said, it basically just finds out what's going on your network and builds from there. So it does basic machine enumeration, sees what's out there, sees what's running. It can also execute commands via PowerShell or Go routines. And what is really, what caught my eye on this one when it comes to malware is it does a lot of things to keep itself on that machine. So if you look at it, it's, how do I say this? It does multiple things to establish, persistence on the machine. It's redundant, persistent tasks that it does. All meaning that if you find one of them, then there's a good chance that they can at least find some other way to keep on the machine. So, you find path 1, but path 2 and 3 are still there. So that's dangerous, but that's kind of where we are now, where they want to make sure they maintain access to that host regardless of what a cyber expert might find. So this is what we get out of this. This is incredibly something that you're going to find more in the upcoming versions of malware as they come out, because it's maintaining persistence on a machine. Make sure that you really own that machine, unless you completely format it. And then we've talked about in the show many times the ability to kind of segment that off and have the firmware infected, or the core system that you can't kind of format off of hardware in the driver level. Like, that stuff's there, and it's going to be something that we have to continue to deal with on the cyber front. Now, the interesting thing is right now, you don't have to worry about this malware unless you happen to work in Southeast or any East Asian embassies. Indonesia, looking at you, because specifically this antivirus, or this malware, targets the antivirus from Indonesia called Smadav, S-M-A-D-A-V. Probably butcher that name. But that is, what it's specifically going after. And where they have found this is actually in a PDF that is named PDF_contacts list of invitated diplomatic members. That's the way they said it. I'm just reading the way it is. But it is very interesting that, why it's specifically being used in this kind of environment. Like I said, it's going to continue to be problematic. because it's the way things kind of work. And that's why I find this very dangerous, because one of the big things I talk about on the show is the idea that yes, right now you may not be a Southeast or East Asian embassy, but these tactics are the ones that tend to get picked up over time by these kind of threat actors who are out there. They will take and they will build off of this environment. They will build off this code, and you'll start seeing it be leveraged elsewhere. So while right now, yeah, you don't have to worry about it, you're absolutely fine, but there's going to be a time coming in which you have to look out for this. So start kind of looking into it now. Be aware of this kind of multi-layered approach to making sure they maintain persistence on the machine, because it's here and it's not going anywhere. Now, second story here, really interesting, because Trend Micro researchers have discovered a brand new ransomware family called Black Suit. And right now this Black Suit is targeting Windows and Linux users, mostly in the Linux user environment. It's ESXi, it's VMware. We kind of know this is kind of the repertoire for these targets right now. If you're able to encrypt the VMware host, then chaos can reign free. But there is an interesting twist here, which is there's a lot of similarities with a previous group called Royal Ransomware. Now, if you're not familiar with Royal, let's go through a real quick back, giving you a heads up on what they are. So Royal Ransomware was first observed back in early 2022. The group that created it was called Dev 0569. They are highly sophisticated, quickly evolving. They're changing their tactics every so often. And to show you how much of a threat they are, back in November of 2022, so not that long ago, they had 43 victims in November. And they demanded between, on the low end, $250,000 up to $2 million per compromise. And their whole thing is obviously money. They went extortion. They attack large enterprises, because obviously your mom and pop store is not going to have $250,000, so they're going after the big fish. They often got a lot of comparisons to the bigger groups out there like Conti and Ryuk. And to put it away, I believe they probably have splintered, or some members of the Royal Ransomware group came from one of those two groups. They have similar tactics. And usually you learn your tactics and you bring it to the group with you. But the interesting thing here is when it came to Royal Ransomware, rather than the normal method nowadays, which is, ransomware as a service, Royal actually purchased themselves direct access into corporate networks through, the initial access brokers, that people who get access to the network, but then don't do anything with it. Their whole job is to kind of sell it to someone else. So that's what they did. They went to these initial access brokers, they got access to these networks, and then they infected it. They managed their attacks all internally, and they kind of used the traditional double extortion tactic, which means they encrypted your data. They then also, before they encrypted the data, technically, they took it off your network, then they encrypted the data, and then they threatened to make that data public, hoping to force you to pay. And then if you did pay, well, obviously they gave you the encryption key, and it was a win-win for them either way. So that is all Royal Ransomware. So Black Suit, which is the new ransomware they found, they looked at both a Windows 32-bit version and an ESXi 64-bit version. That's the Linux version. And when it encrypts stuff, it just appends the .blacksuit, which is where it gets its name from, to the encrypted file. So, windows.exe.blacksuit. That's the encrypted version of it. And just like most normal ransomwares, it leaves a ransomware note with, information about how they did it. A unique ID for the victim so that you can identify yourself to the group. A Tor chat link site, which, is really for communication on getting your data back. And a link to their data link website, which, is kind of the offhanded threat saying, hey, if you do not pay, we'll make you public on this site. Now, at the time that I was looking through this and doing the research, there's only one victim currently on their website, so not huge at this point. Now, I want to tie these two groups kind of back together. Black Suit uses a lot of command line arguments like those in Royal Ransomware. Though it looks like it's evolved because there are some additional arguments that aren't in the previous Royal, but that could just be an upgrade to the system. Both malwares use a comparative intermittent encryption technique. They include OpenSSL's AES encryption algorithm. They have similar formulas for the encryption and numbers they use when comparing file size. So a lot of the core ransomware encryption stuff is all kind of the same here. Now, when comparing the source code in the 64-bit sample, so the Linux or /ESXi sample, there is about 98% similarity in the functions that are used. There is 98.9 in the bindiff-based jump statements and 99.5 in its blocks. So I'm not a programmer, but that seems almost the same exact program, but kind of gives those vibes of copy my homework, but just make some slight changes so the teacher doesn't know. Now, a comparison of the code used in the 32-bit Windows example exhibits about a 99.3% resemblance in basic blocks, a 93.2% in used functions, and 98.4% in its jumps based on bindiff, which seems a little more like they've changed the homework, but it still seems like the entire base is on there. And this could be the same group, being that so much of it's the same. But you have to remember, groups splinter all the time. They take their data, they move elsewhere, they do all this other fancy stuff on the background. But at the same time, we've talked, groups splinter all the time. You lose members, and they kind of take the code that they knew, and they kind of just redo that. We've seen that with similar ones, like Conti. When Conti went down, there was a lot of groups that came up that pretty much used Conti and built on it to make it their own. So, keep an eye out for this, especially if you're a large enterprise that might be prone to extortion. This group out there is going to make that just miserable for all of us. But they're using the same code, which means, from a security standpoint, if you're well protected against the Royal ransomware, you probably got some things in place for the new one. Though I'm sure they will change their command and control servers, so that will change. But a lot of the same detections, a lot of same coding alerts work. So that's a win. Now, in the whole fun of innovative ways in which you can take over someone's Discord server, this is it. Several Discord communities were hit, especially if that Discord community focused around crypto. And that wasn't really necessarily to try to steal crypto as much as you would think, but I guess they thought that they could fool these people a little bit better. So anyway, this starts not with the users of the Discord forum, but the admins of the Discord forum. They were tricked into running some malicious JavaScript code that was designed to look like a bookmark. And how they did this is a masterclass in, I guess, how they trick someone into running a malicious bookmark. So they were contacted by a reporter who wanted an interview for them, and this reporter worked for a crypto-focused news outlet, and they sent the admins who they wanted these interviews from a link to their official Discord server. Now, to join this official Discord server for this crypto-focused news outlet, they need to complete verification steps to kind of get access and validate they are who they say they are. And for some reason, this involved dragging a button from the phony crypto news Discord server to the bookmarks bar in their web browser. How this is supposed to validate you, I have no idea, but this is what they did to people, and it worked. They were then instructed to go back to discord.com and then click the new bookmark to complete the verification process. Now, in that bookmark file was a snippet of JavaScript, which grabbed the user's Discord token. So For those of you who may not be familiar, when you log into a website, your computer is given a token. It resides on the computer. And this tells the server, rather than having to re-put your password in over and over again, that, hey, this is who I am. This is me. I validate who I am. And it can just check. It says, hey, if that token's still there and still valid, we're good. Let's go. And so it grabbed the user's token, which is their not their username and password, but the fact that they authenticated, and used it to send this token to the malicious hacker's website. Then what I think is kind of genius is they waited a bit to use this stolen token. Usually they a couple hours when they thought that, hey, the admin's probably asleep now. Now they then loaded that token onto their computer and went to the Discord server, which then saw the token was there and authenticated that, hey, they are the admin of this server, so let's go ahead and let them in. So now that they were admin, the first thing they did was change the server's access controls, meaning they kicked out anyone who would have the authority to stop them. So if you were an admin other than the one they hacked, you were gone. They removed all the team members from the website. Boom. So they were the only one who could control anything. Then, in a clever move, they posted an announcement as the admin saying, hey, we have an exclusive airdrop or NFT min event or some other way to make money that they're going to pitch to their Discord members. But once again, remember, this is not the admin. This is the hacker pretending to be the admin. And then they pretty much let the people click that link. And then, hey, if you want to get this airdrop or this NFT, you have to link in your crypto wallet so that you can get it. And then for some reason it asked for unlimited spending, and people clicked it. And then it drained that person's crypto wallet of anything valuable in their accounts. Now, the interesting thing about this is because they have the token, they obviously can't lock out the admin they have access to, but everyone else is gone. So that admin needed to be aware of what was going on, log out, log back in, which would then invalidate the token that the scammer had, and then they could kind of restore the process. If the admin changed their password, once again, that would change the token and they would move on. So a very interesting way of attacking the crypto lovers out there who might have crypto discords. Just be aware, even if the admin's posting stuff, just be cautious. And what I would always say is see if this is the normal posting behavior of that admin. If all of a sudden, they typically post between, let's say, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and all of a sudden it's like midnight and they're posting, be a little suspicious of that. But, a pretty clever way to steal some crypto money from people. Obviously, all to make money from the hacker's point of view. But, I mean, I understand how they did it. I still don't understand why copying a bookmark from a Discord into my browser would validate me in any way. I haven't seen the language. Maybe there's something fancy there. I don't know. But that's not a way to validate yourself. That would be red flags to me. But maybe, once again, security guy. That might be just the way I view things. So be wary if you have a crypto Discord or really, this is the year for crypto scams. So just be cautious out there because you never know what some evil person is going to do. In one of the biggest kind of alerts of vulnerabilities out there that you might have seen, MOVEit had a big 0-day mass exploited data theft on their application. And it's only for the MOVEit Transfer, which is a file transfer software developed by Ipswitch, which is a subsidiary of the US-based Progress Software Corporation. And it's used to pretty much securely transfer files between business partners using SFTP, SCP, and HTTP-based uploads. And it can be offered as on-prem or cloud-based. Now, if it's on-prem, obviously the customer manages it. If it's cloud-based, the developer manages it. Well, this is tracked as vulnerabilities tracked as CVE 2023-34362. There was no CVSS score when I looked this up. But on our website, if you go to cybersecurity.newsbyte.com, you could kind of see the impacted versions, which is MOVEit Transfer 23, all of that version. MOVEit Transfer 2022.1.x, 2022.0.x, 2021.1.x, and 2021.0.x. And there are fixed versions of it now, and there's some documentation you can find. All of it, once again, available on cybersecurity.newsbyte.com to find out what versions there is. But what was interesting about this was the type of attack. So MOVEit is obviously a file transfer device, but the vulnerability was a SQL injection. And it could allow an unauthenticated attacker, meaning they didn't have to have access or anything, just asking it, the web server, to gain access to the MOVEit database. Now, an attacker from there could infer information about the structure of the contents of the databases. Once you kind of understand how the databases may be laid out, then you can execute commands that could alter, delete, or copy or download all of that data. Now, this vulnerability was exploited using unpatched systems, and it could occur with both HTTP or HTTPS. So security there was not the vulnerability that would solve things. So who and how long it would, who did it, we don't know right now. It's not attributed to any particular group. We're not sure how long the vulnerability existed before it was found by them, but it's kind of the way it is. So what's the fix? One is to move to a version that doesn't have that vulnerability. Once again, all that's on the website, or you can just look it up, just do MOVEit Transfer, and you'll find everything you need. The fix of it, though, developers warn that admins should block traffic to 80 and 443 on a public server. But just some things you need to know about that. That prevents external access to the web UI. That prevents some MOVEit automation tasks from working. It blocks some APIs. It prevents the Outlook MOVEit plugin transfer from working. But those may be better than having all of your data leaked. They also recommend that you check the C MOVEit Transfer /www root folder for any unexpected files. This includes backups or large file downloads, because that might mean one of two things: either that the threat actors have already stolen your data, or they are in the process of doing so. Now, until you get the patched version, it is strongly advised that your organization shut down MOVEit transfers, perform any thorough investigation on logs, make sure the server is clean, all this before you actually apply the patch to the server. But this is a big one because there's a lot of organizations that use this. It was a 0-day, and 0 days in themselves are scary, meaning that, the organization has yet to be able to patch it. But this was a 0-day that was already being widely exploited on the internet for stealing data. All of this in the hopes that they got away with something. So very dangerous out there. So if you have these, take these offline, do whatever you have to do, protect yourself until you can patch it, and make sure that even when you patch it, you're patching a version that is somewhat clean. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you check out our website, cybersecurity.newsbyte.com. It contains all of my show notes and links for the stories where I got this from. Feel free to contact me, me@jimguckin.com, or you can visit my website, jimguckin.com. Make sure you find us on whatever podcasting site that you use. We're on most of them. Catch you next week. Make sure you stay safe online. Have a good night.